The Collins family Christmas dinner sparkled with perfection, or at least the appearance of it. Eleanor had outdone herself this year. Snow fell in picturesque flurries outside the bay windows of their Shelburne home, landing on evergreens that might have been plucked straight from a Vermont tourist brochure. Inside, pine-scented candles flickered among holly sprigs and glass ornaments arranged with military precision on the sideboard. I smoothed my napkin across my lap, feeling the weight of the heavy linen, the good napkins, brought out only for holidays and dinner parties where impressions matter more than comfort. The table gleams with polished silver that reflects distorted versions of our faces. Mom's collection of Waterford crystal catches the light, throwing rainbow prisms across the wallpaper. Dad carves the turkey with practiced efficiency, the blade slicing through with barely a sound. Perfect portions, just like everything else in this house. My sister Clara sits with perfect posture, her engagement ring catching the light every time she reaches for her water glass. The new lawyer fiancé couldn't make it emergency case preparation, but his absence hasn't stopped Mom from mentioning his Harvard credentials twice already. Morgan, pass the cranberry sauce, please. Mom's voice carries that familiar undercurrent, the one that says this simple request is actually a test of my table manners. I slide the crystal dish toward her, careful not to let it scrape against the tablecloth. 20 minutes into dinner, and so far, so good. Beside me, Ethan shifts in his chair. I can feel his discomfort in the subtle way. His knee bounces under the table. He's worn his best sweater, hair combed neatly, but Mom's eyes had flicked dismissively over him when we arrived. So, Mom begins, the word hanging in the air like a guillotine blade. Still chasing stories for pennies, Morgan? There it is. I take a slow sip of water, buying time. The Burlington Observer has been good to me. She delicately cuts a piece of turkey, examining it before taking a precise bite. I saw that little article you wrote about the farmer's market. Charming, I suppose. The temperature in the room seems to drop 10 degrees. Dad suddenly becomes very interested in adding more gravy to his potatoes. Actually, Ethan says, his voice warm with pride, Morgan's about to become an editor. All heads turn toward him. I hadn't planned to announce this tonight. In Portland, he continues, squeezing my hand under the table. The Maine Herald. They loved her investigative series on the opioid crisis. My mother's fork freezes halfway to her mouth. Her eyes lock with mine, a flash of something dangerous behind them. Portland? Her voice is quiet, the kind of quiet that precedes storms. You're leaving Vermont for this newspaper nonsense? It's a great opportunity, Mom. The Herald has won regional awards for... If you leave Vermont for this nonsense, she cuts me off, setting her fork down with deliberate control. Don't come back. You're dead to me. The words hang in the air, crystalline and sharp. The grandfather clock in the hallway ticks loudly in the silence. Clara's fork clatters against her plate. My father stares fixedly at his green beans. My heart pounds so hard I can feel it in my fingertips. Cold sweat breaks out along my hairline. A strange buzzing fills my ears, like television static. Eleanor, Dad murmurs, too late and too weak to matter. But Mom isn't finished. 31 years old and still playing at being a writer. When will you grow up and do something worthwhile with your life? Clara was already making partner by your age. The words aren't new. The tone isn't new. But something about this moment, the Christmas tree lights, Ethan's warm hand in mine, the opportunity waiting in Portland suddenly brings 30 years of conditional love into crystal clarity. I remember being 14, publishing my first essay in the school paper. Instead of pride, Mom had grounded me for a month for airing family business in a piece about generational differences. I remember Clara's science fair trophies displayed prominently while my journalism awards disappeared into drawers. My whole life has been a careful dance of seeking approval that never fully arrives. Every achievement measured against impossible standards, every choice questioned, every dream diminished. Morgan? Ethan's voice sounds distant. Are you okay? I'm not okay. I feel like I'm seeing my mother really seeing her for the first time. This control has been there all along, in every dismissive comment, every comparison to Clara, every subtle manipulation. The ultimatum isn't new. It's just finally naked, stripped of pretense. My napkin feels suddenly heavy in my lap, like a physical manifestation of expectations I've carried for years. With careful deliberation, I fold it and place it beside my plate, the gesture feeling strangely significant. Then I guess that's goodbye. My voice sounds steadier than I feel. Mom's eyebrows rise slightly. Don't be dramatic, Morgan. You'll be back when you need money. Dad stares into his wine glass, saying nothing. His silence speaks volumes, the same conflict avoidance that has enabled this dynamic my entire life. Clara looks shocked, but I can already see her expression shifting, aligning with our parents as it always does. Morgan, she doesn't mean, Clara begins. She does mean it. The clarity feels almost painful. And now I have a choice between living an authentic life or having your approval. I'm choosing me. I stand up, chair legs scraping against hardwood. The turkey sits half-eaten, the perfect Christmas dinner abandoned. I walk to the coat closet, each step feeling like it carries me further from the person I was when I arrived today. The choice between authentic life and family approval has never been clearer or more terrifying. The cold air hits me like a physical shock when I open the front door. Snow continues to fall, oblivious to how my world has just shattered and reformed. I make it halfway down the porch steps before I hear footsteps behind me. Morgan, wait. Ethan closes the door softly behind him, hurrying to catch up. He drapes my scarf around my neck, his hands gentle. You don't have to decide everything tonight. In his eyes, I see something I've rarely experienced: unconditional support. Not rescue, not taking over, just standing with me in this moment. I already have, I say, watching my breath form clouds in the December air. I think I just started my real life. He helps me into my coat, brushes snowflakes from my hair. We walk toward the car together, leaving perfect Christmas lights twinkling behind us. For the first time in my life, I'm walking away from my mother's approval and towards something that feels terrifyingly like freedom. I've spent the week after Christmas sitting at my kitchen table, with my old journals spread before me like evidence at a crime scene. Each leather-bound volume chronicles a different year, filled with my neat handwriting and the occasional coffee stain. January sunlight filters through my apartment windows, casting a deceptive warmth over pages that reveal a cold truth. I can't believe I never saw it before. I tell Ethan, who sits across from me nursing his third cup of coffee. He's been patient, watching me piece together this puzzle of my past. My finger traces a journal entry from when I was 16. Look at this. I quit the debate team after Mom said my argument style was embarrassing the family. Then here. I flip forward several pages. She told everyone I dropped out because I couldn't handle the pressure. The anger that's been building in my chest all week flares again. Not the hot, impulsive kind, but something deeper and steadier. The kind that clarifies rather than clouds. She did the same thing with the school newspaper. I continue, finding another entry. Remember I told you I quit because I lost interest? That was her story. The truth was she hated that I wrote about local poverty issues instead of uplifting community stories. Ethan reaches across the table, his photographer's hands gentle as they cover mine. What about college? You mentioned something about pre-law. I pull out a journal with my college years emblazoned on the spine. That was the biggest battle. I wanted journalism. She insisted on pre-law. Said writers were perpetual children who never contributed anything of value. My throat tightens at the memory. When I switched majors anyway, she withdrew tuition support. How did you finish? Ethan asks, his brow furrowing. Dad secretly helped. He'd deposit money into my account and tell me not to mention it to Mom. I shake my head, remembering my father's furtive assistance. It was the one time he ever went against her, and even then, he made sure she never found out. The pattern emerges with painful clarity as I flip through more pages. Every major decision in my life marked by her interference. Friendships abandoned because they didn't meet Eleanor Collins' standards. Apartments rejected because the address wasn't prestigious enough. Even my brief engagement at 24, broken off after Mom's relentless criticism of my fiancé's lack of ambition as a teacher. She's always used money and approval as weapons, I say quietly. And Clara enforced it all. The perfect daughter, setting the perfect example. I close the journal, feeling the weight of revelation. This wasn't just about Christmas dinner or Portland. This was systematic, calculated control spanning decades of my life. Later, as evening settles over Burlington, I stand at my window watching snowfall. My world has shifted on its axis since Christmas. Every memory, every relationship, now viewed through this new lens of understanding. The childhood friend Mom deemed common because her father worked in a factory. The college boyfriend who mysteriously stopped calling after meeting my parents. The job offers I declined because they weren't respectable enough for a Collins. It's like I've been living in someone else's story, I tell Dr. Klein during our first video consultation. She's a family trauma specialist Ethan found through his therapy network. Her office looks warm through the screen, bookshelves lined with volumes on psychology and healing. That's a common feeling when we start recognizing control patterns, she says, her voice steady and grounding. You're beginning to separate your authentic self from the narrative that was created for you. I nod, pulling my sweater tighter around me. I always thought I was the problem, the disobedient daughter who could never quite measure up, but now I'm seeing myself as an adult making choices. My choices. That's significant progress, Dr. Klein notes. What led to this shift in perspective? I tell her about the journals, about the patterns I've uncovered. How Eleanor's Christmas ultimatum wasn't a spontaneous outburst, but the culmination of a lifelong strategy. She's always used that dead-to-me threat, I explain. When I wanted to study abroad in college, when I moved to Burlington instead of staying in Shelburne, when I dated someone she disapproved of. It's always been her nuclear option when other control tactics failed. Dr. Klein makes a note. And how are you feeling about the Portland opportunity now? Clearer, I answer. This isn't about Portland. It's about control. If I gave up the editor position, there would just be another test, another demand. Moving the goalposts has always been her specialty. After our session ends, I call Ethan. He's on assignment photographing winter wildlife, but he answers immediately. How did it go? He asks over the sound of wind. Good, clarifying. I curl up on my couch, feeling strangely lighter despite the heavy topics. She helped me see things I hadn't considered. Like what? Like why Mom can't accept my independence without it threatening her whole identity. I watch the snow continue to fall outside. Her entire self-image is built on being the perfect mother who created the perfect family. My choices don't just disappoint her, they undermine her core narrative. That makes sense, Ethan says. Remember when you told me about her mother? How critical she was? I nod, even though he can't see me. Grandma Collins set impossible standards. Mom's just repeating the pattern. The realization doesn't excuse her behavior, but it helps explain the ferocity of her resistance. It's a generational thing, Ethan says. My dad did the same with his father's expectations. The difference is he recognized it and broke the cycle. His words strike a chord. That's what I need to do, break the cycle. After we hang up, I start making notes about Dr. Klein's observations. She pointed out how Eleanor's perfectionism stemmed from deep fear of judgment, something I'd never considered. How Dad's conflict avoidance enabled her control by creating a vacuum where another perspective should exist. How their combined dynamics made them formidable opponents in any bid for independence. Later that evening, the doorbell rings, startling me from my thoughts. It's snowing harder now, and I'm not expecting anyone. When I open the door, Ethan stands there, camera bag slung over his shoulder, snowflakes melting in his hair. I thought you were photographing eagles, I say, surprised. They can wait. He brushes snow from his jacket. This seemed more important. We spend the evening at my kitchen table, mapping out resources and supports. Dr. Klein will continue weekly sessions. Ethan knows people in Portland who can help me find housing. A college friend works at a newspaper there and can introduce me to the local journalism community. I need to build a life she can't control, I say, writing this down as our central goal. Ethan nods. A life where your choices are truly yours. For the first time since Christmas, I feel something beyond anger or confusion, something like anticipation. The Portland opportunity isn't just a job, it's the first chapter of a life I choose for myself. I look at the journals stacked neatly at the edge of the table. They document a past shaped by Eleanor's expectations, but they don't determine my future. That blank page belongs to me. The following week, I sat across from Dr. Klein in her softly lit office, watching dust motes float through afternoon sunlight. The room smells faintly of lavender and old books. Her bookshelf stands organized but not too perfect, unlike my mother's display shelves, where even book spines must align precisely. Tell me about your mother's reaction when you've disagreed with her before. Dr. Klein says, her voice calm but curious. She wears a simple cardigan in burgundy, her silver-streaked hair pulled back in a practical bun. Nothing flashy, nothing designed to impress. The opposite of Eleanor Collins. It depends on the disagreement. I trace the pattern on the armchair. Small things, she dismisses. Bigger things. She escalates until I cave. Dr. Klein nods, making a brief note. And you've always eventually caved? The question lands like a stone in still water. Yes, until Christmas. En perda. What's different about this time, Morgan? I consider this, the realization forming as I speak it. This is about my whole life, not just one decision, and I'm tired of living for her approval. Doctor. Klein smiles slightly. You know, what fascinates me is how you've developed such strong investigative skills as a journalist, yet struggled to apply that same analytical thinking to your family dynamics. Something clicks. I can uncover corruption at City Hall, but I've been blind to what's happening in my own life. Not blind, Dr. Klein corrects. Conditioned. Children are wired to seek parental approval, but Eleanor's love has been conditional on your compliance. I feel a flutter of recognition. She's a narcissist, isn't she? I can't diagnose someone I haven't treated, Dr. Klein says carefully, but the patterns you've described suggest strongly controlling behavior with narcissistic tendencies. The pieces fall into place: her obsession with appearances, the golden child treatment of Clara, the constant criticism disguised as concern. The most important thing to understand, Doctor, Klein continues, leaning forward slightly, is that her control worked because you allowed it. That's not blame, it's power. A small shock runs through me. What do you mean? What would your life look like if you chose it entirely for yourself? The question hangs in the air between us, both terrifying and exhilarating. I've spent my career asking hard questions of others. Now I'm finally asking them of myself. I've always had the power to walk away, haven't I? The words come out barely above a whisper. Dr. Klein nods. And now you're using it. Later that evening, I'm making dinner in my apartment when my phone lights up. Eleanor's name appears on the screen. My stomach tightens, but something else surfaces too, a strange new calm. I answer and put the phone on speaker while I continue chopping vegetables. Hello, Mother. Morgan. Her voice carries that familiar crisp authority. I've been thinking about this Portland situation. You need to reconsider. I make to do. 3 weeks ago, those words would have triggered an immediate defensive response or, more likely, capitulation. Instead, I set the knife down carefully. My career isn't up for discussion, I say evenly. A brief silence. I can almost see her blinking in surprise at my tone. Darling, be reasonable. Her voice shifts to the syrupy persuasion she uses when direct authority fails. The Observer would probably give you a small promotion if you asked. There's no need to move across state lines for some insignificant title change. I've accepted the editor position, I say, arranging the vegetables in the pan. It starts February 1st. Another pause, longer this time. When she speaks again, her voice has hardened. You're throwing away everything we've built for you. What about the family legacy? Your grandfather's collection that I've been saving for you? Your trust fund? Have you thought about what you're giving up? The old guilt rises but doesn't overwhelm me. I think about Dr. Klein's words. I've always had the power. You made your position clear at Christmas, Mother, I say. My voice remains steady despite the pounding of my heart. You said I'd be dead to you if I took this job. I'm sorry you feel that way, but my decision stands. Morgan Elizabeth Collins, you listened to me. I have listened. For 31 years. Now I'm choosing my own path. This is that boyfriend's influence, isn't it? He's always been. This is my decision. I interrupt again. Not Ethan's, not yours, mine. The silence stretches so long I wonder if she's hung up. Then I hear her sharp intake of breath. We'll discuss this when you've calmed down and come to your senses. Her voice is ice. There's nothing more to discuss. I say. Goodbye, Mother. The call ends abruptly. She hung up first. I set the phone down and realize my hands are shaking. But it's not fear. It's exhilaration. When Ethan arrives an hour later, he notices immediately. Something's different, he says, studying my face as he shrugs off his coat. Eleanor called, I say, setting plates on the table. She demanded I reconsider Portland. His eyebrows lift. And I stood my ground. The smile spreads across my face slowly, like sunrise. She hung up on me. He crosses the room and pulls me into a gentle hug. When he steps back, his eyes shine with quiet pride. That's huge. Dr. Klein said something today that changed everything, I tell him. She helped me see that Eleanor only had power because I gave it to her. What does it feel like? Ethan asks, reaching for the wine glasses. Terrifying, I admit, but also like I can finally breathe. We settle at my small dining table with plates of pasta and glasses of red wine. For the first time since Christmas, I feel a genuine smile form, not the polite mask I've perfected for family gatherings, but something real and unguarded. Let's celebrate, Ethan says, raising his glass. To standing your ground. To choosing my own path, I add, clinking my glass against his. After dinner, we curl up on the couch. Ethan pulls a small velvet pouch from his pocket and places it in my palm. I've been waiting for the right moment, he says. Inside is a ring, not a diamond solitaire like Clara's, but a vintage piece with an unusual green stone surrounded by tiny pearls. It's prehnite, Ethan explains. It's supposed to help let go of what no longer serves you. I slip it onto my finger, admiring how the light catches the stone. Not a status symbol, but a talisman of transformation. It tells your story, Ethan says softly, not hers. I rest my head against his shoulder, watching the green stone catch the lamplight. The question surfaces unbidden. Can I really build a life completely free of her influence? The voice of doubt sounds suspiciously like Eleanor's, but for the first time, it doesn't drown out my own. Tomorrow I'll call Dr. Klein to schedule another session. Tonight, I'm savoring this small victory, not just standing up to my mother, but standing up for myself. I mark the calendar with a red X, 10 days until Portland. 2 weeks to dismantle a life without setting off alarms. My apartment looks like an archaeological dig, distinct layers of my existence sorted into categories. Take, leave, donate, trash. The coffee table has become command central, covered with checklists and a notebook I've labeled Independence Protocol. The name makes me smile despite everything. It sounds like something from a spy novel, rather than the methodical dismantling of my mother's influence. 10 days, I whisper to no one. The reality settles in my stomach like cold stone. After the high of standing up to my mother during our phone confrontation, I've deliberately pulled back emotionally. That small victory was satisfying but dangerous. It would be easy to mistake a battle for the war. Dr. Klein warned me about this. Celebration is fine, she'd said, but your mother has spent decades perfecting her techniques. Don't underestimate what's ahead. I open my contact list and begin the careful inventory of relationships. Each name requires evaluation. Who stays connected to me? Who stays connected to Eleanor? Cousin Sarah, we exchange Christmas cards, but nothing more. She can remain. Uncle Thomas, Mom's brother, reports everything back to her. Limited contact only. My old high school friend Veronica is still close with my mother through the garden club. Potential risk. The process is exhausting. Each decision feels like cutting a thread in a complex tapestry. Too many at once and everything unravels. Too few and I remain entangled. My phone rings. Ethan. Just checking in, he says. How's Operation Escape Plan going? I've got 3 piles. Eleanor approved, Eleanor tolerated, and Eleanor would burn if she could. I survey my bedroom. Guess which pile is biggest? Please tell me you're keeping the leather jacket she called commune reject chic. It's already packed. I make another note in my book. I called about a new bank account today. Found one with no fees and branches in Portland. Smart move. And I'm getting my own phone plan tomorrow. No more family discount. Silence hangs between us for a moment. You know, Ethan says carefully, when we talked about this move before, it was about your career. Now it feels like I'm dismantling my entire existence? I finish for him. Yeah. It has to be this way. Half measures won't work with her. I close my eyes, remembering countless compromises that never satisfied Eleanor. I need clean borders between her life and mine. Later that evening, I spread out paperwork across my kitchen table. Portland housing listings fill my laptop screen, colorful pins marking potential neighborhoods on a digital map. I've created spreadsheets comparing costs, amenities, and proximity to the Herald's office. Another tab holds research on main healthcare providers who accept my insurance. My phone calendar now has color-coded reminders. Update mailing address, transfer prescriptions, schedule utility connections. I've even created a separate email account Eleanor doesn't know about for all Portland correspondence. Dr. Klein's voice echoes from our last session. This isn't just about physical distance, Morgan. You're creating psychological infrastructure that can withstand pressure. She'd helped me develop specific responses for the inevitable emotional manipulation attempts. We'd role-played scenarios until my answers became reflexive, rather than reactive. I email my new boss at the Herald, confirming my start date, and asking about orientation details. Another foundation stone in place. Another connection that exists independently of my family's knowledge or approval. Ethan and I have mapped out our own transition plan. He'll stay in Vermont to finish his current photography contract, then join me in Portland once I'm settled. The final week before Portland stretches before me like a tightrope, every step calculated, every decision weighed. My apartment living room has transformed into command central, with neatly labeled boxes stacked against the wall. The lease for my new Portland apartment sits on the coffee table, signed and dated, a tangible promise of what's coming. I check items off my meticulous to-do list, satisfaction flooding through me with each completed task. Moving company confirmed. Utilities scheduled for transfer. Final story submitted to my editor at the Burlington Observer, with a professional resignation letter attached. You've thought of everything, Ethan says, bringing me a mug of coffee as I organize my files. His presence grounds me, a reminder that I'm not dismantling my life alone, not leaving anything to chance. I reply, sorting through medical records to establish with new providers in Portland. Not this time. The morning light catches the folder labeled Dr. Klein, notes, sitting prominently on my desk. Yesterday's final in-person session had been bittersweet, though we'd established a schedule for virtual appointments during my transition. You've done exceptional work, Morgan, Doctor, Klein had said, her eyes crinkling warmly behind her glasses. Remember what we discussed about setting boundaries without building walls. My new bank accounts and insurance policies represent more than just practical arrangements. They're declarations of independence. Mom can't freeze accounts she doesn't control. Dad can't play mediator through financial assistance. The separate phone plan means no more checking my call logs or questioning my minutes. I run my finger along the edge of my new credit card, my name embossed in raised letters. Morgan Collins, standing on her own. Ethan watches me from the doorway, leaning against the frame. You okay? You've been staring at that card for a full minute. Just thinking about how different everything will be. I tuck the card into my wallet. A month ago, I couldn't have imagined making these decisions without second-guessing myself. The knock at my door comes just after 6 that evening, 3 sharp raps that send my heart racing. Through the peephole, my father's familiar figure stands in the hallway, hands thrust deep in his jacket pockets. My first instinct is not to answer, to pretend I'm not home. But that's the old Morgan, the one who avoided confrontation at all costs. I take a deep breath and open the door. Dad. The word hangs between us, neither welcome nor rejection. Morgan. He shuffles his feet, looking past me into the apartment. May I come in? I step aside, noticing how he takes in the boxes, the dismantled bookshelves, the clear evidence of my departure. His face falls slightly. So, you're really going through with it, he says, standing awkwardly in the center of my living room. The moving truck comes Monday. I don't offer him a seat. Don't offer tea or coffee. The ball is in his court. He rubs the back of his neck, a gesture I've seen 1,000 times when he's uncomfortable. Your mother didn't mean what she said. She's waiting for you to apologize. The words land like stones in still water, rippling outward. Of course. No recognition of what she did, just the expectation that I'll fold as I always have. I'm not apologizing for accepting a promotion, Dad. My voice remains steady, though my pulse quickens. This isn't about Portland. It's about control. She's upset. You know how she gets. He sighs, looking older than I remember. She's been telling everyone you had some kind of mental breakdown. That the job offer isn't real. Cold washes through me. She's what? Called your aunt, Sarah, your cousins. Even mentioned something to Pastor Miller after church. He won't meet my eyes. Says you're making rash decisions because you're unstable. My mind races ahead, cataloging connections, professional contacts, people whose opinions matter. The story she's crafting would follow me, undermine me. Even in Portland, whispers have ways of traveling. She's trying to discredit me. The realization crystallizes, sharp and clear. If people think I'm unstable, they won't believe me about how she treats me. Dad shrugs helplessly. She's hurt, Morgan. You know how important family is to her. Family isn't a weapon, Dad. I walk to the window, looking out at Burlington one last time. Tell Mom I received her message. and tell her that when she's ready to talk as equals, I'll be ready too. After he leaves, I add a new section to my to-do list: reputation management. I spend the evening emailing key contacts, former professors, mentors, friends in the industry, casually mentioning my exciting new position in Portland, creating witnesses to my stability and success before Eleanor's narrative can take root. By Sunday night, every box is sealed, every arrangement confirmed. I stand in my empty apartment, the echoing space a canvas for future possibilities. David's visit forced adaptations to my plans, but encountering Eleanor's moves, I've grown stronger. More strategic, I trace my finger along the windowsill, saying goodbye to the view that has greeted me for 5 years. Vermont's mountains rise in the distance, familiar and beautiful. Tomorrow they'll be in my rearview mirror. My phone buzzes with a text from Ethan. All packed? Need anything? All set, I type back. See you at 7. I curl up on the bare mattress, my suitcase packed for the drive tomorrow. In the stillness, I feel something unfamiliar taking root, not fear, not anxiety, but a quiet confidence. Eleanor thought her ultimatum would break me. Instead, it freed me. Tomorrow I start the life I choose, I whisper to the empty room. The words hang in the darkness, a promise to myself that feels more binding than any I've made before. The threshold awaits. I'm ready to cross it. I've settled into my office at the Portland Herald, a space that feels more mine with each passing day. The newsroom hums with the familiar cadence of journalism, keyboards clacking, phones ringing, the occasional burst of laughter. 1 month into my new position as features editor, and the initial nerves have given way to a steady confidence. My team respects me. My ideas matter here. The morning light filters through blinds. I adjusted to my liking, no one dictating the proper angle they should hang. On my desk sits a framed photo of Ethan and me at Portland Headlight, our first weekend exploration of our new home. No family portraits, no obligatory displays of Colin's family achievements. My phone buzzes with a text from Ethan. Lunch later? Found a place with those clam cakes you liked. I smile, typing back a quick, "Yes, please," when Sandra from reception appears in my doorway, her usually composed face tight with concern. "Morgan, there's someone demanding to see you in the lobby. Says she's your mother and it's a family emergency." The words hit like a physical blow. My shoulders tense, my throat constricts. Of course she'd come. Of course. She's quite insistent, Sandra adds, her expression suggesting this is an understatement. I take a deep breath, remembering Dr. Klein's words. Preparation creates power. You've built a foundation she can't shake. Tell her I'll be out in a moment, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. Sandra nods and retreats. I stand, smoothing my blazer, the emerald one I chose because I liked it, not because it met someone else's standards. I text Ethan quickly. Emergency. Mom showed up at the office. His response comes immediately. On my way. You've got this. Walking through the newsroom feels like moving through water. Colleagues glance up, sensing something in my stride. I pass Frank Webster's office, my boss, the editor-in-chief, and make a split-second decision. Frank, do you have a minute? I ask, knocking lightly on his open door. He looks up from his computer. What's up, Collins? My mother has shown up unannounced in the lobby. There's no actual emergency, but she might claim there is. It's complicated family dynamics. The words come out with professional clarity. No apology, no shame. Frank's eyebrows rise slightly. Need security? Hopefully not, but I wanted you to know what's happening. He nods once. Appreciated. Handle it however you need to. This simple exchange, his trust in my judgment, strengthens my resolve as I continue toward the lobby. I hear her before I see her. Eleanor Collins's voice carries with practiced authority, the kind that expects immediate compliance. I need to speak with my daughter immediately. She's not well. Eleanor Collins's. When I push through the glass doors into the lobby, the scene unfolds exactly as I feared. My mother stands at the reception desk in her camel hair coat, pearl earrings catching the light. Her Burberry scarf lies perfectly draped across her shoulders. She's dressed for battle in her finest armor. Morgan! She turns, face shifting instantly to a mask of maternal concern. Thank goodness. There's been a terrible situation. Hello, Mother, I say, my voice calm and measured. There's no emergency, is there? Her eyes narrow slightly, recalculating. We need to speak privately. Your father is beside himself with worry. Two reporters waiting in the lobby for their interview subjects watch with undisguised interest. Sandra pretends to organize papers while listening intently. I have a busy day scheduled, I say. If you'd like to meet for coffee after work, we can. This ridiculous Portland phase needs to end now. She cuts me off, dropping the emergency pretense entirely. Her voice rises. You've made your point. You've worried your father sick. Clara says you barely return her calls. I can see the security guard shifting his position, moving closer. My professional reputation, everything I've built in this past month, hangs in the balance of how I handle the next few minutes. Mother, this isn't the place for this conversation. I keep my tone measured, professional, though my heart hammers against my ribs. Look at you playing editor. She scoffs, gesturing at my office attire. Morgan, you're having some kind of breakdown. First that photographer boyfriend, then abandoning your family. Mrs. Collins, the security guard interrupts. I'm going to have to ask you to lower your voice or take this outside. She turns on him with the full force of her indignation. Do you know who I am? My daughter is clearly unstable. She walked out on Christmas dinner, left her family behind. Mother. My voice cuts through hers, sharper than I intended. I take a breath, recalibrating. I'm not having a breakdown. I've accepted a promotion. I've moved to a new city. These are normal adult decisions. Her face flushes with anger. There's nothing normal about turning your back on your family, on everything we've given you. I can see Frank watching through the glass doors now, ready to intervene if needed. Two more colleagues have appeared, drawn by the commotion. All my careful planning for professional boundaries collides with Eleanor's desperate attempt to regain control. Mrs. Collins, the security guard says firmly, I need you to step outside now. This is ridiculous. Morgan, get your things. We're going home. The moment stretches between us, her certainty that I'll cave, as I always have before. But something has changed. All the preparation of the past months clicks into place like tumblers in a lock. I am home, I say quietly. This is where I work. These are my colleagues. You can't come here and disrupt that. You ungrateful, she begins, but stops as the security guard takes a step forward. Miss Collins, should I escort your mother out? He asks me. The realization that he's asking me what to do, not deferring to my mother's authority, shifts something fundamental between us. I see the shock register on Eleanor's face. Yes, please, I say, my voice steady. My mother was just leaving. Morgan! Her voice rises again, but the security guard moves between us. Ma'am, let's step outside. As he guides her toward the door, she calls back, This isn't over, Morgan. Your father and I won't stand for this behavior. The glass doors close behind them. The lobby falls silent. I feel the weight of curious eyes on me. Well, says Frank, who has emerged from the newsroom, that was quite the morning drama. A nervous laugh bubbles up from somewhere deep inside me. I'm so sorry about that. Don't be, he says. Families are complicated, but just so you know, you handled that like a pro. I nod, grateful for his understanding. If you'll excuse me, I need to make a call. Back in my office, I close the door and dial Dr. Klein. Her familiar voice centers me as I explain what happened. You maintained boundaries while staying professional, she says. That's exactly what we prepared for. She came to my workplace, I say, the reality sinking in. She was willing to destroy my professional reputation to get me back under control. And how did that make you feel, doctor? Klein asks. Angry. The word comes with surprising force. No, furious. She's never going to stop, is she? Not unless I make her. Angry. Through my office window, I can see the security guard escorting Eleanor to her car. Even at this distance, her rigid posture radiates indignation. My phone lights up with a text from Ethan. Just parked. Where are you? I watch my mother's car pull away from the curb, tires squealing slightly on the pavement. Something shifts inside me, a final tumbler falling into place. Dr. Klein, I need to go. I know what I have to do now. Morgan, remember our strategies. I will. But this ends now. No more reacting to her moves. It's time for her to react to mine. I hang up, a strange calm settling over me. The past month of careful preparation, the strategies with Dr. Klein, the transparent communication with my boss, all of it has been building to this moment. Eleanor's desperate gambit has only solidified my resolve. When Ethan appears in my doorway, concern etched across his face, I stand to meet him. "You okay?" he asks, searching my expression. "No," I answer truthfully. "But I will be. It's time to end this on my terms, not hers." The sunlight streams through my office window, illuminating dust motes that dance in the air between us. For the first time since Christmas, I feel not just prepared, but powerful. This ends now, I repeat, the words a promise to myself more than anyone else. The next day, the hotel lobby gleams with polished surfaces and muted elegance. Morning light filters through tall windows, casting long shadows across marble floors. I arrived 15 minutes early, choosing a corner with 2 armchairs and a small table. Strategic positioning backs to the wall, clear sightlines to all entrances, public enough for safety but private enough for candid conversation. My heartbeat remains steady as I wait. The preparations of the past months have built to this moment. I smooth my dark green blouse, the color of growth, of new beginnings, and check my phone. No messages from Ethan, who waits nearby at a cafe across the street. Available if needed, but respecting my need to handle this myself. When Eleanor enters through the revolving door, I spot her instantly. Her spine is ramrod straight, chin lifted with the same imperious tilt I've seen at countless dinner parties. She wears cream-colored slacks and a cashmere sweater, the uniform of affluent New England motherhood. But something's different. Tiny details only a daughter would notice. A missed button, slightly smudged mascara, the absence of her customary pearl earrings. She scans the lobby, gaze skipping over me once before returning with narrowed recognition. Even now, she expects me to wave, to call out, to make things easier for her. I remain seated, hands relaxed in my lap. "Morgan." She says my name like she's testing it, approaching with measured steps. "I see you're still determined to be dramatic." "Good morning, Eleanor." My voice comes out calm, professional, the voice I use in editorial meetings. "Thank you for agreeing to meet." She flinches at my use of her first name rather than Mom, a tiny victory that costs me nothing. This situation has gone far enough. She begins, settling into the chair across from me, handbag perched precisely on her knees. "Your father and I have decided we're willing to overlook this Portland nonsense if you—" "I didn't come to Portland to escape you," I interrupt, feeling the power in speaking truth. "I came to find myself." Eleanor's mouth tightens. "What exactly does that mean? Some spiritual journey nonsense you picked up from that photographer boyfriend?" "It means I'm finally building a life based on what I want, not what you expect." I keep my voice level, even as I feel the old anger rising like a tide. "I have an apartment I love, a job that challenges me, and relationships without conditions." "Without conditions?" Her laugh holds no warmth. "Grow up, Morgan. Everything in life has conditions. The sooner you accept that, the sooner—" The newspaper's managing editor attended my Monday presentation. I continue, refusing to be derailed. "He's asked me to develop a special feature series on community resilience." "Community resilience," she repeats, making the words sound absurd. "And what does that pay? Enough for ramen noodles and that thrift store wardrobe you insist on wearing?" "Old buttons, expertly pushed. But I've disconnected the wires. My salary is adequate, but that's not really why you're here, is it?" I lean forward slightly. "You're here because for the first time, you couldn't control me. You couldn't predict what I'd do next." Her eyes flash. "I'm here because you humiliated me in front of your father. Because your sister is worried sick. Because this childish rebellion is hurting people who love you." There it is, the manipulation that once would have sent me spiraling into guilt. "The scene you created at my workplace was unacceptable," I say, my voice hardening. "My colleagues now know exactly who you are and why I moved across state lines. That wasn't my intention, but it's the consequence of your choices." "Your choices have consequences too, Morgan." Her voice drops to the familiar, threatening whisper that used to freeze my blood. "Family names matter at home, you know that. I've spoken with the Morrison Foundation Board. They're a major funder of local journalism. One word from me about your instability—" I cut her off with a raised hand. "I've already met with Catherine Morrison. We had coffee last week after she reached out about my opioid series." Eleanor's composure slips. She hadn't expected this, couldn't have known that Catherine and I connected over shared experiences with controlling mothers. "The chess pieces I've methodically arranged over months now move with devastating effectiveness. The board values actual journalism, not gossip." I continue. Every threat you make only confirms I made the right decision in December. A hotel employee passes nearby, glancing curiously at our tense tableau. Eleanor forces a brittle smile, always conscious of appearances. You've become so cold, she murmurs, shifting tactics. This isn't the daughter I raised. I'm exactly the daughter you raised. The truth resonates between us. Observant, thorough, determined. I just finally turned those qualities toward seeing our relationship clearly. Her fingers twist the leather strap of her handbag. Clara's wedding is in September. Are you really planning to miss your only sister's wedding because of this? Tantrum? Clara knows how to reach me, I say. And it's her wedding, not yours. If she wants me there, we'll figure it out. Eleanor's phone buzzes. She glances down, frowning at the screen before answering. David? I told you not to call during. She pauses, listening, her face draining of color. What do you mean you canceled it? I specifically told you. I watch the transformation with clinical detachment, the widening of her eyes, the sudden paleness around her mouth as my father apparently delivers news she never expected to hear. We'll discuss this when I get back, she snaps, ending the call. Is everything okay? I ask, not from obligation but genuine curiosity. Eleanor stares at her phone as if it might bite. Your father canceled the club membership. 30 years of membership, our name on the founder's plaque, all because. She looks up, something unfamiliar in her expression. Confusion. Uncertainty. She needs help, Morgan. My father's voice emerges from the phone on speaker. She hadn't fully disconnected the call. I'm taking her to see someone. My breath catches. In all my planning, I never expected this. My father finally standing up, setting his own boundaries. Eleanor jabs at the phone, ending the call properly this time. He's overreacting. This ridiculous family drama has gotten to him. It's not drama. It's consequences. The words come easily now. You told me I was dead to you if I chose my career. I made my choice. Now you're facing yours. Her face crumples momentarily before hardening again. So, that's it? 31 years of motherhood erased because I pushed you to aim higher than some small-town newspaper? This isn't about the newspaper. I lean forward, meeting her gaze directly. It's about control. It's about conditional love. It's about punishing me for choices you didn't approve of, from journalism school to Ethan to Portland. She glances around the lobby, clearly uncomfortable with this public dissection. A young couple with suitcases gives us a wide berth, sensing the tension. I want what's best for you. She insists, but the words sound hollow, even to her. You want what you think is best, I correct her. There's a difference. Eleanor gathers her purse, preparing her exit strategy. When you've had time to think about this rationally. I've had months to think about it. I remain seated, refusing to rise for the customary Collins family goodbye ritual. I've thought about little else. My terms are simple. I'll consider contact when you're ready for a relationship between equals. No manipulation, no ultimatums, no controlling my career or relationship choices. And if I don't agree to these terms, the word tastes bitter in her mouth. Then nothing changes. I continue building my life in Portland. You continue in Vermont. We acknowledge that a relationship isn't possible right now. She stands, smoothing invisible wrinkles from her slacks. You sound like a lawyer drafting a contract, not a daughter. I sound like an adult setting boundaries. I correct her. When you're ready for a relationship between adults, I'll be here. Eleanor opens her mouth, then closes it. For perhaps the first time in my life, my mother has no prepared response, no counterattack. The realization of her powerlessness settles over her like an unfamiliar coat. She turns without another word, walking toward the revolving doors with measured steps. Her shoulders, usually perfectly squared, curve slightly inward. Not defeat. Eleanor Collins doesn't admit defeat, but perhaps the first recognition that victory is no longer possible. I remain seated, watching her disappear through the glass doors. The weight that's pressed against my chest since Christmas lifts completely. Not because I've won, but because I've finally stopped playing a game with rules designed to ensure I lose. My phone buzzes with a text from Ethan. Everything okay? I type back, better than okay. It's over. I'm free. And for the first time since I can remember, those words feel absolutely true. I stand at the window of my Portland apartment, watching seagulls circle over the harbor. It's been 3 days since the confrontation with my mother in the hotel lobby. and I'm still processing what happened. The weight I've carried for years has lifted, replaced by an unfamiliar lightness that makes me feel almost buoyant. Doctor. Klein's face fills my laptop screen during our virtual session. How are you feeling about everything that happened? Like I'm finally breathing properly, I say, touching the windowsill. I didn't just stand up to her. I stood up for myself. That's an important distinction. Her voice carries the steady warmth that's anchored me through this transformation. Yesterday I changed the headline on a feature piece without second-guessing myself for an hour first. I laugh at how small yet significant this feels. And last night Ethan and I picked a restaurant without me worrying about what Mom would think of the decor. Those everyday moments are where real freedom lives, Doctor. Klein says. The editor-in-chief actually complimented my decisiveness on the city council corruption piece. Pride swells in my chest, untainted by the voice in my head that always whispered I wasn't good enough. And I'm sleeping better. No more 3 a.m. anxiety spirals about disappointing her. So, I describe how I've stopped checking my phone constantly for missed calls from Vermont, how colors seem brighter, food tastes better. How Ethan commented that my laugh sounds different, fuller, uninhibited by the constant awareness of potential criticism. You're experiencing life without anticipatory anxiety, Doctor. Klein observes. This is what healing looks like, Morgan. The morning light catches the edge of my coffee mug, the handmade one I bought at the farmer's market last weekend simply because I liked it, not because it matched anything or impressed anyone. What's next? She asks. Everything, I answer. And for the first time, that doesn't feel terrifying. 6 months later, I stand in the newsroom, pinning the final layout for my feature series on community revitalization to the board. The promotion to senior editor came through last month, ahead of schedule. My team gathers around, their respect evident in their attentiveness. This is excellent work, everyone, I tell them, meaning it. My voice carries a confidence that no longer feels borrowed. Later that evening, Ethan and I walk along the eastern promenade as sunset paints the water in shades of gold. His fingers intertwine with mine, the vintage emerald ring on my left hand catching the light. It tells your story, not hers, he had said when he proposed last month. Sophie invited us to her poetry reading this weekend, I say, referring to the friend I met at the Portland Writers' Circle, a connection I've cultivated without questioning whether my mother would approve. I like her, Ethan says, squeezing my hand. Your whole circle here, they're good people. They are. People who know me as I am now, not as the perpetually disappointing daughter I was cast as in Vermont. People who value my perspective without expecting me to earn my place at the table. Family is who treats you like family, I tell him, watching sailboats return to harbor. Biology's just paperwork. My apartment has transformed too. Books I genuinely want to read fill the shelves, not the prestigious titles Mom thought should be displayed. Art I love brightens the walls, not pieces chosen for their resale value or recognition factor. Even my wardrobe has evolved clothes that make me feel comfortable and confident, not just items that would pass Eleanor's inspection. I've stopped avoiding phone calls from Vermont area codes. When Clara calls, our conversations have a new honesty. She's seeing the family dynamic differently now, asking questions about her own relationship patterns. Dad has started therapy, something I never imagined possible. Small changes, but significant ones. 1 year after the Christmas ultimatum that changed everything, I unlock my mailbox to find an envelope with my mother's precise handwriting. My heart doesn't race the way it once would have. I carry it upstairs, open a window to let in the spring breeze, and carefully slice the envelope open. The letter inside is 3 pages, front and back. Eleanor's penmanship is as perfect as ever, but there's something different in the tone. I've been working with someone, she writes. A therapist. He's helping me understand patterns I never questioned. She acknowledges specific incidents, the school essay punishment, the pre-law ultimatum, the constant comparisons to Clara. Near the end, she writes words I never expected to see. You were right to walk away. I sit with the letter for days before responding with a simple note. Thank you for your letter. I'm open to a short video call after the holidays. When that call finally happens, I notice changes immediately. She sits in her home office, perfectly groomed as always, but there's less rigidity in her posture. She asks about the wedding plans, then starts to offer an opinion about flower arrangements before catching herself. I'm sorry, she says, surprising me. That's not my place. This is your day. The conversation isn't perfect. Old patterns don't dissolve overnight. But there's a tentative new framework forming, one where I don't need her approval to feel whole, and she's beginning to see me as a separate person worthy of respect. I'm proud of the work you're doing, I tell her as we prepare to end the call, meaning both her therapy and her attempt to rebuild our relationship. After we disconnect, I stand at my window again, watching Portland bustle below. The woman who trembled at a Christmas dinner table a year ago feels like a different person, someone I've both become and always been beneath the weight of expectations. My next feature series will focus on family estrangement and reconciliation. My editor position allows me to shed light on stories that might help others find their way. Ethan and I are planning a honeymoon to places neither of us has seen. Life stretches before me, unscripted and mine to shape. When someone tells you you're dead to them for choosing yourself, sometimes that's the moment you finally start living.